We're joined by analyst Nixon Katembo for more on this. A very good evening to you, Nixon. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for having me in the studio once again.
Well, South African-based opposition parties in the DRC have now marched to the union buildings in Pretoria to seek the intervention of South Africa and perhaps the other international community. Is this what really the DRC needs going into the elections?
I think one could say it's long overdue because South Africa is a major trading partner in the DRC. It provides much needed support for the DRC government. Not only that, also for the MONUSCO. You'll remember that South Africa has a strong military presence under MONUSCO, and even when you have to take account that South Africa intervened in the flash out of the M23 rebel in 2013 with the assistance of South African helicopters, Roivax. So South Africa plays an important role, and I think now they are sleeping, if I may be allowed to say so, because if South Africa had intervened in a manner that intervened under the UN Intervention Brigade to flash out the M23, we couldn't see what we are seeing today. On the political front, that is what is needed. Much of the international support for the DRC government and the DRC opposition to make sure that they are held accountable to bring the much needed change in the country and to make sure that everyone is on board into going forward to these elections.
Yeah, and the march comes after one of the former vice presidents, Joseph Kabila, who's been excluded from running in the race, has warned of massive chaos if the elections are rigged. Now, the threats or the warnings of chaos have been coming from all fronts, from all sectors in society, and they're growing stronger and stronger every single day as the country moves towards the elections. How concerned should Congolese be?
It's because of the nature of the climate that is prevailing in the country. You cannot organize an elections when there are a section of the population which is facing threats of violence and threats of war. Millions and millions of people in the east are displaced. So it's a major concern, not only a political concern based on the exclusion of these other political players in the politics of the country, but also in going forward to the elections. It tells much about the breakdown of the institutions in place in the country, and the way they can sort of bring together the people around a common cause going forward to the elections. So the issue here is how the politics has been handled, both internally and externally. And there are many variants to this Congolese political trajectory that is happening currently. There are, international parts that plays into the elections, but also the dynamics of the politics within the Congolese political parties and the opposition themselves, including the government. Not only that, also the Electoral Commission. One would remember that in 2011, after the elections, there was a call for the restructuring of the Electoral Commission and so on. But this restructured Electoral Commission was mainly led by the opposition, members from the opposition, including the then late Father Malumalu, who was from the Catholic Church, actually handpicked by civil society and the Catholic Church to lead the Electoral Commission. And going forward, it was said that the Congolese government actually should prepare at least 300 million to participate towards the restructuring of the elections, the preparing of the voters' roll, and the elections themselves. Donors promised about $700 million, but out of those, the donors did not honor their own share, and the Congolese government put up 200 millions to actually prepare for the elections. But the question is, where did the $200 million go, which was supposed to prepare for the election enough? Now time and again, the Electoral Commission is saying that we're not ready, we're lacking money.
That's perhaps the big question. And another question is, of course, the fairness of the elections, which will definitely be thrust into the spotlight. Do we know if Bemba is still challenging his exclusion from running in the presidential race? And if so, will his exclusion have much of an impact in terms of the democratization or the democratic nature of these elections?
You see, it's not about the Bemba's exclusion. And we need to put it clearly that the problem of the DRC is institutions of the state. If you have a strong institution which dictate how the country should be run, it doesn't matter who come into the political scene as long as there is a fair play based on the rule of law. Now, you have a country which lacks even political will to have institutions in place. Even both on the side of the government and the opposition, they are not respecting the constitution they themselves, authored in 2006 and in 2006, going towards the first elections. So how do you have a government which does not respond, honor the clause of the constitution, in as much as the opposition does not respect the constitution themselves? So the question is, you have an issue of a personality cult. The politics now is about the people. It's not about the institution. It's not about the policies that they are bringing forward. If you look at Bemba, Katumbi, and Felix Tshisekedi, the question is, what are their policies? Social policies that are going to put the country forward. What are the strategic vision for the country? That's what we need to be asking.
And perhaps another question that we should be asking ourselves is just how credible will this election? I mean, Bemba himself has said that his exclusion has been rubber-stamped by the judiciary. He says the judiciary is aligned to the state, it is partisan to the state. And I guess one of the issues that we should lavish so much attention on is the constitutionality of this. He says the constitution will be tested.
Exactly. As I said, the constitutionality already has been tested because none, either the government or the opposition, they are not respecting constitutional clause. If you read the constitution, states much of these issues clearly. You cannot have someone who has been in prison and out of the country for over a year to run for president. The constitution excludes Bemba. That's not Bemba's own making or Kabila's own making. It's the DRC constitution. And if they are to respect that, now the government itself, it's an illegitimate government, if I may say, because they have actually run over their mandate. They were supposed to have been out of power in 2016. Today we are 2018, we are going towards 2019, and still no one is legitimate in the country.
One of the trigger points is the use of touch-screen voting machines, which the DRC Election Commission says are very crucial, something which the opposition parties have been frowning upon. Will this be used as the country moves into elections?
Well, the Electoral Commission is pushing ahead with the use of this voters machine. But interestingly, there has not been education of the masses whatsoever on how those machines are going to run. Two, even if the machines are used, it is not the electoral law of the Congolese constitution, and even the electoral law itself does not envisage the use of the machine. Three, the infrastructure in the country does not allow for actually the use of such machines. So you have a myriad of problems that are bedevailing the country, not only that on the preparation of the elections, but on the security front, on the social front. So it's a serious challenge. Now one wonder, why is the Electoral Commission is pushing ahead with the machine, with the voting machine, while it knows that it hasn't educated the people enough to how to use these machines?
Don't you think then it will ease up on the logistical nightmares that we've seen in the past?
We and I could agree, and perhaps our viewers could agree, that the use of the machines are the most cost-effective than the printing of ballot papers. But the preparedness of that, I mean, an electoral commission which was given 200 billion. Let me state this clearly. Egypt, as a country, get $300 million of US aid for military, as a military aid for the Egyptian army. Now, Egypt has a population of about 150 million. The DRC have 76 to 79 million people, and yet these are used for security purposes. Where did the $200 million that was given to the Electoral Commission to make sure that they are prepared in time enough for the electoral processes to begin? And that is a question. Okay. No one is answering it. The Electoral Commission is not answering it. The government is not answering it. Neither the opposition. What we see in the DRC, though, is everyone is shouting, but no one is bringing up solutions.
Yeah. Now, just before I let you go, Moise Katumbi, is he likely to fight his exclusion?
I don't see really in less than 2 months. You must remember that we are in the month of September, and the elections are in December. How he is going to do that is really a miracle. I see him excluded indefinitely from these elections, unless the opposition is united as they have been calling for the unification. But today they met in Brussels, and they outlined 9-point plans. Those 9-point plans, including the restructuring of the electoral commissions, you know, the auditing of the voters' roll. How can it be done the next 2 months going towards the elections? Okay. So my fear, and it is the fear of many Congolese, that these elections may as well not take place, looking at the things, how they are going.
Okay. Nixon, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. That was a political analyst, Nixon Katembo, just helping us unpack the implications of the Congolese elections as the country gears up for elections, which will be held in slightly under 3 months from now. This is